Here are my recommendations for how to help students whose ECR essays scored a 0. In analyzing many essays with the teachers I coach, I found that most essays that score a 0 fall into one of these categories. Okay. Maybe they're a couple sentences long where the student did attempt an essay, but it didn't ever address the prompt. The second one would be those where the student hit random keys. They wrote something like IDK. Frankly, I've seen some very interesting responses that would fall into that one. And then those that are actually really nicely written summaries, but they are not an essay that addresses the prompt. So the 4 questions on the question sheet are designed to help you figure out why it scored a 0. So start with question 1 and go all the way down until you land on a STAAR instructional recommendation. Once I have identified the STAAR instructional recommendations based on the 4 questions, I then am going to go to the column where that essay or those essays fall. I would recommend working with students in small group at this point on their ECR essays. So let's talk about the essays that are going to fall into the red STAAR instructional recommendations. Now, again, there's always exceptions, but I found typically the students whose essays fall here are students that maybe writing's hard for a number of reasons. Maybe reading and writing are both difficult. Maybe they don't feel successful on writing tasks. So, as much as I'd love everyone to get a 10, I really want to try to prevent these students from writing an essay that gets them a 0. So, I'm going to pick a focus here that involves writing one really good sentence. And I'm going to tell them that we're going to work on writing one really good sentence. Can y'all do that for me? And most of the time they say yes because that seems more attainable than an entire essay. Now you've got 4 examples of different types of central idea or claim sentences in the red instructional STAAR recommendations. Based on what you know about the students, what you think would be the easiest, that's what I would say start with. If that's not difficult for them, you can then show them another option. Right? So I'm going to let you decide, but you might spend up until STAAR just working on that one claim or central idea sentence, and that's okay. Now, for those that the sentence writing becomes easier for, then you're going to look at the next column, and I'll talk about that in a second. I do want to suggest something to the students that receive accommodation, specifically those that have the questions read aloud to them on STAAR. If students have the ability to have the questions read aloud to them, please spend some time not only in all question types, but spend some time within the Canvas platform with the STAAR release or those sample items, showing them how to effectively use that accommodation on an ECR question. And what I mean by that is you'll want to go to an ECR sample, show them where the second sentence is, because that is where the prompt has been located up to this point. What we've seen is that it has started with the word explain. It will ask them to explain how or explain why. That next word would be the word that you would start your claim or your central idea sentence with, and you would continue until you finished out that claim or central idea. Also, think about having them type a few easy phrases in a few ways for a few reasons. Those 2 things for those students will go a long way in helping them develop a central idea or a claim sentence. The essays that fall into the yellow STAAR instructional recommendations had something that tied them a little bit more closely to the text or to the prompt. So we want to make sure that those kids know how to write a claim or central idea also first thing. So even though they're in this yellow column, you want to backtrack 1 to the red instructional recommendation column. Make sure they know how to write a proper claim or central idea by one of the 4 ways, and then move over back to the yellow column once they're successful. Once they can write a claim or central idea sentence, my recommendation, and I know it's going to sound kind of crazy, is to then teach them how to write a conclusion. My rationale for that is the claim or central idea sentence and the conclusion, they match. So if they know how to write a claim or central idea sentence, then it's very easy to go from that known to something that's new, which would be how to close out the essay. So if they wrote their claim or central idea, it would be a central idea sentence. If they said, Kim shows determination throughout the story in many ways. The conclusion could be, in conclusion, Kim was very determined throughout the story. Or to sum it up, Kim showed determination in many ways. That could probably get them another point. So, claim or central idea sentence, then the conclusion. If they can do those two sentences, then we'll work on what comes in the middle. Essays that land in the blue STAAR instructional recommendation column have some good quality writing backing them. They just didn't attend to the prompt. So, my recommendation for those essays would be to review the difference between a summary and an essay. Also, make sure students know what an essay must include. You might need to go back to a prompt through the Cambium platform and show them a couple. Show them where it tells them what to write about. Second sentence, after the word explain, probably. Second sentence is the prompt. One activity that they actually really like, and it's nice because it doesn't throw out what they wrote, it reframes it, is an activity I call keep, cut, and add. So what I'll do is I'll take a piece of paper and I'll fold it into 3 sections. We'll review the 3 parts of the essay. Then they'll cut up their summary response and put those sentences where it could fit. So we call this keep, cut, and add. Keep the sentences that work, cut the ones that don't, and then let's look at what type of sentences we need to add to complete our essay. Some students just need to see that and just need to practice the essay structure a little bit more in a small group, and they're fine. Right? Others get ahead of themselves and just want to write about what they would prefer to write about versus what the question is asking. So spend some time there. They can easily go from a 0 to up to 5 points, maybe even more, if you'll work with them on the essay structure. And lastly, please be flexible and use this in a way that best meets the needs of your students. The goal is to be targeted and focus on one piece of the essay at a time so that hopefully we can prevent any essays from receiving a 0.